What up, whatnots? Welcome to the Metropolitan Division preview on What Chaos presented by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code WhatChaos and get $50 instantly when you play $5. Prize Picks, run your game. My name is DJ Bean. 2. My left is Pete Blackburn, and just around the corner is Sean, Mr. Buffalo Sabres DePaz. Hi, Sean.
You calling me the Buffalo Sabres thing fucked up my salute because I went to flex the shirt and then I forgot to salute it first.
Did you use the right hand? Which hand?
I used the left hand.
Which hand are you supposed to use?
The left hand. The right hand, but the left hand.
Is that shirt like? Is that how faded it's always been?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
So we received shirts, or we have shirts of those that are in gray, and then like would it be a heather gray?
A lighter gray, yeah.
Like a very light gray.
I got the lighter gray on the t-shirt and the darker gray on the sweatshirt. So
mine's flipped.
Yeah.
I forget which one. I got the red Wings.
I think you got the
Ducks.
same as
We're the
as
same
me.
one.
Yeah.
I noticed you're wearing a shirt today.
I am wearing a shirt. I'm wearing a Columbus Blue Jacket shirt because not anything against the Columbus Blue Jackets, but I did realize this morning that my Metropolitan Division merchandise selection is pretty weak. Maybe
light.
The weakest of any of the divisions in hockey.
I didn't know if we were going to be able to dress the set today, and shockingly, we still have more than enough to
we have so many hockey jerseys.
more than adequately dress the set with Metropolitan stuff. I'm looking around even behind, like off camera. I'm like, yeah, we still have like 9 more things.
Metro has to have the worst branding of the 4.
Oh,
because like I think Washington mid.
Yeah.
I think Carolina's jerseys are kind of all over the place. Islanders don't really do much for me.
Blue Jackets mid.
The Blue Jackets are mid.
Yeah, like the Penguins probably
Flyers
have the
okay.
Penguins Penguins, Flyers, and Rangers probably the
are
best
all
in
very
the division.
good. I don't have a problem with the Devils, and I don't necessarily have a problem with the Hurricanes either. I just need them to figure out what their jerseys actually are.
Here's what I'll say, and this is maybe a giveaway as to what's coming. I think the Metropolitan Division is the least interesting.
obviously.
Yeah.
And clearly our least favorite division. We got excited about it last year down the stretch where there were a bunch of teams like the Islanders and the Flyers and the Capitals in a position where it was like someone has to grab 2 of these 3 spots. But other than that, not to say that we didn't talk about the Metropolitan a lot, but I think mainly last year it was like 65% of the time we were talking about Pacific Division teams just because that was so interesting. And the rest of the time we were talking about Central Division and good amount of Atlantic, and not to say no Metro, but until the end, other than Flyers exciting things happening from time to time, the Metro was not a super exciting division last year.
I famously didn't give a shit about the Metro teams when the playoffs came around.
Even in the conference final.
Yeah, I didn't care about the Rangers. The Hurricanes were kind of interesting. The Capitals were just fun, but they obviously didn't do anything.
Yeah, I mean,
second round.
The thing about the Metro is like there are going to be a couple good teams at the top, and then it's going to be kind of a mid-off beyond that. That's what it was last year. That's what it's probably going to be this year. And it just, you kind of swap in and out. I think the Devils being better hopefully will help, but we'll see.
We'll get into it. And 4 teams famously made the playoffs from the Metro last year. You had the Rangers winning the President's Trophy, and then you had the Hurricanes. You had the Islanders, who I'm excited to talk about, and then sliding in on that second wild card spot was the Washington Capitals. And I'm making faces as I say a bunch of these team names because they've either had interesting off seasons or they're just kind of wacky, funny teams. We always go alphabetical order. That's the thing about us. We're alphabetical order, boys. So we're starting with the Carolina Hurricanes, a team that at one point after getting Jake Guentzel last year was the favorite to win the Stanley Cup. We had Sebastian Aho on to break it all down. He was too locked in to really have too much fun. He was determined, and they didn't get where they want to go. So I guess that we can start with, will they ever get where they want to go? Because last year seemed like as good a year as any, and then they lost Jake Gensel. Brett Pesce was a huge loss. Teravainen, they got worse. But again, let's start vague with, is this a year where the Hurricanes can still feel we're cup contenders-ish? 8th best odds to win the cup, 3rd best in the Metro.
Yeah, I think they can definitely feel that way. The big question is
it a free country is the question.
Yeah, no, it's no. So I think that they're gonna be there. They're gonna be where they've been. There's no reason to believe that they're not going to be hanging around. The big question with the Hurricanes is similar to like the Leafs. It's like, are they ever going to get over the fucking hump? Are they ever going to get to the finish line? And a lot of the times you wait and you say, you know, they've grown together, they've learned from their mistakes, and they will get over the hump. But it doesn't always happen. Like, they're not as talented as the San Jose Sharks when the San Jose Sharks had their big core with like Pavelski, Marlowe, Thornton. But like you kept saying over and over again, like they can't not get it done. Yes, they can. Like, they can fail. So I don't buy into the Hurricanes, given what I've seen over the summer, that like they've done enough to push them over the hump.
I mean, if anything, you ask how much worse have they gotten, because their biggest moves were extending their RFAs. Seth Jarvis gets a huge deal. We love it for him. Martin Necas. But as I mentioned, they lose Jake Gensel, who I don't really count because he was like a deadline addition. You didn't know if he was going to be there long-term anyway. But Pesce is a huge loss. But I'll say 2 things on that. One is that they've survived losing guys on defense before. 2021, they lost Dougie Hamilton and then had the lowest goals against in the league next season. Plus, their defensive personnel is still really good. The other thing is that teams do come close, get quote-unquote worse, and then improve, have a better result. It was 2017 or 2018,
Capitals.
Whichever year the Capitals was. Yeah, they load up at the trade deadline. They get Kevin Shattenkirk. They lose earlier than they would have liked. They don't keep Shattenkirk. On paper, you're like, okay, well, that was it. That was their opportunity. They go out and they win the cup next year. Their group now, with young guys being older and with them being proven at overcoming losses on defense, it wouldn't shock me if they're still really, really good. And if, I don't know, like at some point, they don't, as you said, they don't have to, but at some point, they could take that next step.
Yeah, I just think that there's the goaltending is still a concern for me. Like, Freddie Anderson had a really good year last year, but he's what, 35, and he didn't play a ton last year. Like, he's good when he's healthy, but I just don't know if you can trust him, especially in the playoffs. So like, goaltending still a little bit of a question mark for me. You mentioned losing Gensel. Where are their goals going to come from? Because that's why they went out and they got Gensel. It seems like their goal scoring always dries up when they kind of need it most. And that's why they went out and got Gensel. He helped for sure, but now you've lost him. You're kind of back to the same position that you've been in.
They still scored a lot of goals last season, though. They just don't have. They just
dry up though.
Have like potent kind of killers.
Yeah, that's been their big thing forever. Is that they've got a really good roster, but they don't have any like true game breaking superstars.
Their power play was awesome last season. They finished top 10 in goals scored. They were really, really good. Like, I get why, even though I was kind of making a face at it at the time, I get why they were a favorite to win, or like why they were the betting favorite to win the cup.
In a pretty wide open Eastern Conference too.
Yeah, exactly. I think that the bigger loss for them is Pesce than Gensel, because like their hallmark is always going to be
I disagree.
I don't know if they're like so physically tough to play against, but they're difficult to play against.
Yeah, but I mean, their defensive system is really good and their commitment to team defense is strong. Like you mentioned, they've lost guys on defense before. They always find the next guy. Their defense has not been a problem for a long time. It's the guys and the playmakers up front in really packing a punch offensively. So I disagree. I think losing Gensel is really tough for them.
I'll also say that I guess my heart probably meant that the Pesci thing is a sizable loss. Gensel, I just like wasn't really considering him being on the team anyway. So getting a guy at the deadline, not keeping them, and then losing a guy who's been a kind of core part of your team for a long time, that to me, I see as being the more they took a step backwards from what they were in the first place. But yeah, if they could have kept anybody, you'd want them to keep Gensel. What intrigues me offensively with this team is what is Seth Jarvis? Because he gets a big contract, and that's terrific for him. Is he going to be a right wing on the first line, or is he at some point going to be a center? It would go a really long way if he ends up being a center and a good center at that, because otherwise, what are you looking at? Second line center, just very cocky.
Yeah. No, like I don't want to say ugh.
Not
like,
as a second line center. No, I just don't.
If his offensive game takes a big step, sure, but you'd feel a lot better with that guy being your 3C. Like I say this all the time, having a really good 3C, especially one who is a shutdown guy, is maybe the biggest piece to becoming like a true Stanley Cup contender. So if the Hurricanes are in a position where Kotkaniemi is their 3C and is a major shutdown piece for them, like a Philip Deneau type, that'd be huge.
Do you call third pairing defensemen 3D?
No.
Is 3C a video game term?
No.
Where does it come from? I
think people just say 2C,
Yeah,
3C.
Like,
all right.
like QB1, QB2.
Yeah.
Okay, I like it. That's kind of it though for me. Like, who is there 2C? Is it Jarvis? And if it's Jarvis and he's awesome offensively, then they're in business, and you can always figure out who to make your first line right wing another time, or maybe that's a deadline addition. They don't really have cap space, but yeah, what is Jarvis and what is Kotkaniemi? Those are my biggest two questions.
I'm very intrigued about Bradley Nadeau, who may crack the team this year. It seems he's projected from Daily Faceoff as their second line left wing, which would be really interesting. He was their first round draft pick last year. Really good player. If he turns into something, top six looks quite a bit better.
Yeah, they're just not as they're when you look at their lineup, it's never going to be daunting.
Well, because
what's a mind fuck
you've
with
seen
them.
it so many times. You've seen it before. It's very similar to what they've rolled out in the past, minus Jake Gensel, so it's less sexy. But it's still good.
I think I'm in my head about the 2C thing because I'm looking at my notes and I even wrote down. I said Jarvis Kotkaniemi, who is 2C. So that's a term that I've used before, but I felt like I'd never heard it before. Is it a common thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
That we've been saying forever?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm using it. Pete's using it. This is our thing. So
we invented this.
All in all, do you like him better or do you like him worse than last year? I like him a little worse, but I see this division as being as open as I thought it was going into last year anyway.
I don't think that I can say that they're better, but I'm not comfortable saying they're worse either.
They're definitely not better is what I will say. They could be, or they're definitely not.
They could be better if like their core guys take big steps. Like if Sebastian Aho, Svechnikov, Jarvis all continue getting better, they're better. Like it seems like a dumb and easy thing to say, but I think it's true.
And that defense is still, again, like it can, I don't know how well it'll deal with losing Pesci, but Slavin, Burns, Orlov, Sean Walker, who they got, Gostisbehere, they've got real guys on the back end there. So they're going to be in the mix. It's just a matter of how high. Let's go to the Columbus Blue Jackets, which is always an interesting conversation. And no team, given this summer, is in a more impossible situation with them because they were on the ice. They were terrible last season. Like 25th in goals for, second to last in goals against, second to worst power play, 26th in penalty kill. They had all of the who's the coach Does this coach work? They kind of had 2 coaches at various points last year, just a real mess. And then after really, I would say, an encouraging start to the offseason, experience absolutely unspeakable tragedy that is not going to leave them when this season starts, when this season ends, will always kind of be a part of this team's story. So if there is ever a team for which we should all root, and we root for these guys anyway, it's the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Yeah. I mean, it's, obviously the losing Johnny Gaudreau is unfathomable. And then at some point you have to turn to hockey, like the unfathomable part of like the tragedy itself. And then you turn to hockey and you're like, oh, this team also lost one of their best players, which sucks on top of already sucking to a millionth degree.
And this will also affect the hockey. There isn't going to be a game or a moment or anything that there isn't either a tribute taking place or something. And all of those things should be happening. But even down to sitting on the bench with your teammate, looking over at them, and you'll undoubtedly see a patch or something like this. The challenge that these players face, I think, is really obvious, but I wonder if people are going to overlook that at points. Like I will give this team or any player on the team any pass, excuse, whatever you want to say. Like if this shit's too hard this season, that's the most understandable thing in the world. Having said that, I will be thrilled if this team improves quite a bit from what they were on the ice last year, because Gaudreau will also be part of that.
Yeah, right. Like it could go one of 2 ways. Like it could be extremely difficult. It could be impossible to move past for a lot of these guys. It could also be like an inspirational, motivating thing to like play for the Gaudreaus and have that be something that actually pushes them a little bit. And, it's impossible to know which way it's going to go. I'm sure there's going to be elements on both sides of it. But I mean, when you just boil it down to just like the straight roster and the hockey, I think that there's kind of like only up for this team, you would think, in terms of how much talent they have there that is young, that is still developing. And like you say it a million times, you said it a million times last year, you like the roster.
It's such a likable roster.
Yeah.
Young guys, old guys that you like. They signed JVR, not to a PTO. They signed JVR. You sent in our group text. You were like, JVR to the Blue Jackets. And I was like, I knew they'd give him a PTO. And you were like, they gave him a contract.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck yeah. Also, JVR, like, not that bad. Not what he once was, but I don't know.
He was serviceable last year. Lost a little bit of steam with the injuries halfway through the year. But like, I think for a team that needs veterans, and for like what JVR brings, I don't hate the ad. I would also like to see them sign Phil Kessel. Like,
would love that.
Would love to see Phil Kessel in Columbus.
I'll say like JVR or a Phil Kessel. Like those are guys who have obviously played bigger roles in the past, but they're veterans who can score a few goals and balance a bottom six. This bottom six is going to be lousy with future offensive stars just because they have so many young, really good forwards. So somebody, whether it's like a Voronkov or I don't know, like I don't think Caden Lindstrom's making the team this year. He's probably going to go back and he'll come next year. But like players like that, Chinnikov, will dip down into the bottom six at points. So having a JVR with them, or if they do go get a Phil Kessel or something like that, it will help. And I don't know, like look at their centers after getting Sean Monahan, who we had on the show, lovely guy. Monahan is Fantilli a center this year? I
Hopefully.
hope. Make him the second line center. Cole Sillinger, they are promising down the middle. Sean Corrali is kind of set it and forget it, good fourth line center. And then you sprinkle in the rest of those guys around him. Kirill Marchenko, we absolutely love. Still 24. Voronkov, still 24. Kent Johnson, Cole Sillinger, 32 points last year in 77 games. Does that go up to 45 points? Does that go up to 50 points? Fantilli, second season in the league. All these guys, the way I phrased it with the Sabres was really stupid. I said the young guys are going to be, I said most of the young guys are going to be older this year. Famously, all people are going to be older than they previously were.
Their older group is getting younger this year. It's going to be really big for them.
I watched that clip back and I was like, what an idiot I am, and I just hope you two weren't listening.
I get the
sentiment behind it. Yeah.
Like, especially when the big complaint against the Sabres is that they're a childish team. You're saying, well, they're not as childish as they once were.
And I think the meaning behind it when I say like most of their young guys are going to be a year older than, I think what I mean is the young guys that we care about are going to be more experienced. And so I'm only talking about most of them. I'm not talking about some young guys on the roster who stink, but Blue Jackets have a similar situation, and they also lost Patrick Laine and mentioned coaching situation last year. They have Dean Evison now, so that's interesting. They get Jordan Harris in the Laine deal. The
biggest thing here, I think, for me is the coaching. Like Dean Evison, I think I'm not totally confident in who or what he is as a coach. I am totally confident that he's better than Pascal Vincent.
You know who I really wish they got? I don't think we really... Oh, you know what? I did talk about this player for them last year. I wish they got Ullmark.
No.
They just...
I would have loved Ullmark to Carolina.
Get a good goalie.
I would have loved to
get a good goalie.
Or just get rid of Merzlikins.
I was going to say...
that he's still there is crazy.
Otherwise... quote unquote solve the Merzlikins situation, because that's gonna, I feel like that's gonna be ugly as long as it's
gonna fester.
Wasn't that one of the first things that their new GM said, was that basically no one wants that contract?
Yes.
Yeah.
Don Waddell got there and was like, listen, I know he doesn't want to be here, but I don't think anybody else wants him there anywhere else, which is fucking hilarious. But I think the Blue Jackets are not going to be as bad as a lot of people expect them to be. I don't think they're going to be as bad as they were last year, but they are still a ways off.
They're still a ways off, but I hope they have a good, encouraging season, and I hope that their young players continue to improve, because they didn't even mention David Jiricek. Speaking of bad situations that could fester, last season there was a lot of, hey, what are you doing with me over here?
I think that one's easily solvable. You just fucking play him.
Play him the whole year. And
let him grow. Let him develop. Or at least be forthright with your plans for him. Because I think the thing with Jiricek last year was that they said that he was going to be on the team. He bought an apartment or rented an apartment. And then was constantly going to Cleveland.
That's an easier thing to do with a new general manager and with a new coach. So again, there's a lot of things hockey-wise that can take a step forward this year for the Blue Jackets. But boy, it's going to be a heavy, heavy, tough season throughout the NHL, and the Blue Jackets players are absolutely going to feel every step of that. But as I mentioned, this is a rebuild that Johnny Gaudreau is still part of, because like all of these young guys who played with him are going to be doing it for him, and are going to, like, when this team arrives, Johnny Gaudreau is going to be a part of it, which will absolutely rock. And they've also got Stadium Series this year at Ohio State. That's going to be cool as shit. That's probably also going to be very emotional. But yeah, unabashedly pulling for the Blue Jackets this year, as I think really everybody is. How about the New Jersey Devils? One of the more interesting teams to discuss. Tied for the third best odds to win the Stanley Cup at plus 1,100. They're tied with the Avalanche and the Stars behind the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers. This is a team that basically is, or I'll say this season is, to use video game speak, the next game after rage quitting. Isn't it?
It's, yeah.
Did I get myself back with the trying to do the like, oh, we're doing video game talk?
Yeah. Okay.
Isn't that what this feels like for this team? Where it's like, I don't know what the fuck that was. Now I'm going to do it. They've got
they bought a new controller, which is their coach.
Sean's giving a little nod. He's like, all right, you got it back.
I have this to me all the time, when especially a bunch with college football recently, where I'm just like, we'll try this again tomorrow.
Yeah, super sim to end. Let's take a break. We'll come back tomorrow.
Yep.
I was so in my head after botching the I don't know that must be a video game term, and then realizing it's just a term that I don't know, maybe I hadn't heard around here a lot, and now we're back with video game talk. But yes, they were such a disappointment last year, and probably doing the thing when you rage quit of like, fuck all this. They experienced a mess behind the bench, we'll say. They fired their head coach, Lindy Ruff, finished the season with Travis Green as their head coach. They go and they get Sheldon Keefe. They also had very little Dougie Hamilton last year, which was a huge loss for them. Jack Hughes was hurt. They didn't have goaltending. And
didn't they? Saying that they didn't have goaltending is underselling it. They had... Speaking to this isn't necessarily a video game term, but throwing. Their goaltenders were throwing
quite literally playing the puck halfway across the other side of the red line.
See, I was gonna say no. Give me all the video game terms I'm learning here, but I actually didn't know what that means in context. Throwing just means throwing
a game. No, like throwing games.
Like you're
trying to lose.
Basically.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, Akira Schmid that one time in Columbus when he played the puck over the red line during a delayed
definitely
penalty.
looked like he was trying to throw.
If you could bank on two things from the New Jersey Devils last year, it's number one, that they were going to be down 1-0 within like the first 10 minutes of a game. And two, their goaltending was going to be fucking ass.
Okay.
That's basically it.
Famously, we did a 24-hour trade deadline stream and the Devils got Jake Allen. And I was so underwhelmed. You were into it. I was like, that's fucking it. That's your goaltending situation? Oh, my God. What are you guys throwing? Are you trying to make the playoffs or are you out here throwing? And now, after finally getting Jacob Markstrom, after that being rumored for 20-plus years, now Jake Allen is their backup goalie?
They're in a great spot.
I'm into it.
Yeah, so that's the thing. That's what I said at the trade deadline last year. I was like, all right, it's something. They got something. Jake Allen had another year of control when they traded for him. They didn't give up a whole lot for him. And assuming that they were going to get something else done over the offseason, having a brand new tandem now with Markstrom and Allen, really solid.
Okay, so among the reasons why we should feel really good about the Devils, despite them, again, they finished second to last in the Metro last year.
They did not make the playoffs last year in the Eastern Conference where teams were like just trying to give away playoff
I will
spots.
even say they deeply did not make the playoffs.
Full disclosure, when I popped this graphic up, I double-checked because I thought I had forgotten to update the information on it from another graphic because I was like, there's no way the Devils finished.
They were
seventh in
seventh
the division.
The only team worse than them in the Metro was the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Who we saw play each other.
What's that?
Who we saw play each other.
That's right. And who would have thought? I mean, when we watched those teams play, we were like, the Devils are so much better. And they should have been better.
That was the infamous game where I bet the parlay on Jack Hughes to score a goal and to have four shots on net. And then he had a hat trick with 3 shots on goal. I was so mad.
That was incredible. So reasons to like them, despite how fucking terrible they were last year, is they have a coach who we like. We're all pulling for Sheldon Keefe, who is got to be the Jack Adams favorite, right? I don't know if he is, but
yeah, I mean,
that's going to be such an unfair Jack Adams win if they go out and they win the Metro, and it's like, well,
yeah, because like the whole energy around the Devils this year is like, well, that shit's not going to happen again, right?
It's the post
Sheldon
rage
Keefe
quit
is
life.
indeed the favorite.
He's what?
He is indeed the favorite.
Okay, so Hamilton back after having surgery on that torn pectoral muscle. I mentioned the changing of the coach. Brett Pesce re-enters this conversation because they signed him, which was one of my favorite signings of the offseason. So they are way better on the back end after they allowed so many goals last year. They were 26th in the league in goals against. Their goaltending is way upgraded. Their defense, from what it was last year, is heavily upgraded.
Brendan Smith is gone.
And even on the back end, second year of Simone Nemitz.
Yeah. Well, like that's part of the reason why Lindy needed to go. Like he probably needed to go mid-season. They just didn't give Nemitz enough of a chance. I think he's going to be a hell of a player.
I'm always cool with not giving rookie defensemen super huge chance.
Yeah,
Depending on like how old they are.
But given what else they were trotting out there instead of him, like at least give the young guy who has shown flashes a chance to settle in.
Yeah, I agree with that. Old coaches aren't going to do that. If they think that they might not make the playoffs, they're going to go with guys who they trust and know the system and everything instead of thinking like, should I really trust this guy?
How did it work for Lindy?
Yeah,
it ended up in the same position.
It often doesn't, but coaches will always go with if two guys are making a similar impact or even one old guy is worse, I'm going with the old guy because he's not going to make as many mistakes. And it's like, well, if he's old and he's bad, he doesn't need to make mistakes. He's just bad, even if he's not making mistakes. So
he's playing his game.
Yeah, right. Like he's just going out and he's not screwing anything up, but guys are still skating around him because he's not good.
You can feel better about yourself because you expected the bad thing.
I guess that's kind of what old coaches do, but we'll see what Sheldon Keefe does now. We're pulling for him. And do you think that they are maybe overhyped?
So I think that's the discussion around the Devils this year is did the market and did people's expectations overcorrect? Like that.
They were like that at the end of last season when this team was ass and finishing 7th. It was like, well, next year this isn't going to happen again. Like, so when you're talking about the Rangers and all these things, like, hey, next year you're going to have to deal with the Devils. And it's like, you got to deal with these motherfuckers who are finishing 7th. So I wonder if we do, like, I rate them super, super highly, but I wonder if a moment will come where we're like, we got carried away.
I don't think so, though, because when you look at what this team did, like they got Jacob Markstrom, who is a very good goaltender.
Yes.
Jake Allen is a very good backup, even at this stage of his career. They're getting back one of the best defensemen in all of hockey. They improved immensely on the back end, even with Pesce and Dillon. Like Nemitz, if he takes a step forward, their defense is going to be incredible. Like you look at their top 6, it's fucking unbelievable. Even like the ad of Stefan Nason, like on the bottom 6, there's every reason to buy into this team.
So Nason, I had to look what the contract was, but he was a guy that was like some team that's knocking on the door is going to want to get him and put him in their bottom 6. And the Devils getting him, I was like, that's such a tiny bit of work for their situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I thought that maybe the Rangers would do it after. We'll talk about the whole Barclay Goodrow thing in a second, but they get Sam Carrick instead. Like teams that really want to have that bottom 6 presence guy, that's Nason.
Yeah, but Nason is like the higher end bottom 6 presence guy.
Right. He's like for a while, what's this guy going to be sort of player who has settled into higher end bottom 6.
He makes you better rather than just filling a hole.
Yeah.
So I really like this team. I want to be the guy who's like, all right, let's pump the brakes on the Devils, slow up with the overcorrection. I've already placed a bet that the Devils are going to win the President's Trophy this year.
Okay, so the Devils are just, and we can maybe at some point make a chart or a list or whatever. They just are one of those teams that is surrounded by hyperbole. We talked about the Lightning in the Atlantic preview. There's a lot of hyperbole going on around them. Devils, hyperbole positive. Lightning, hyperbole negative. I'm just on hyperbole watch for some of these teams. And I think the Devils are going to be fucking awesome. But because we are throwing around so many platitudes, I'm just a little wary. Sean, you're kind of making a face.
I'm just rooting. I'm rooting for Sheldon Keefe because I am famously not a fan of the Toronto Maple Leafs. But that said, I'm kind of rooting for the Maple Leafs to win their division. And the New Jersey Devils, wild card 1. Devils, Sheldon Keefe versus the Maple Leafs in round 1 of the playoffs has Maple Leaf sadness written all over it again.
Yeah, like from a sadness perspective, that would be funny.
Yeah, I don't
but
think
it's way more realistic that it happens the other way around, where the Devils win the Metro and the Leafs get the wild card.
Because then it's a year of talking about that shit. As the Devils are looking great with Sheldon Keefe, the Leafs, when they're freaking out asking, are we even going to make the playoffs? They're saying, could have had this guy. Look what he's doing out there.
So you really think there's a better chance that the Maple Leafs finish 4th in their division?
100%.
Great question.
100%.
Great topic.
Devils.
I think it's more likely that the Devils win the Metro than the Leafs win the Atlantic. Although I think that both are very plausible.
Who in the Metro? What 3 teams, at least 3 teams, are going to
easy.
finish ahead of the Devils?
I mean, I think the Rangers and the Hurricanes most certainly can. Should probably. And then, I mean,
Who's the third?
I'm not answering that question. We're not shooting our wad.
Well, I guess
we can leave it up.
Could
for
it be?
There's much. It's much easier to find 3 teams in the Atlantic. Than
all
it
I'm
is in the
saying is
Metro.
that there is a team that was really good for a lot of the year in that division that just missed the
Are you
playoffs.
saying the Philadelphia Flyers?
Well, okay. Well, this is end of the.
Yeah,
this is end of the
I was
preview
teasing
talk.
it. I was teasing it.
Okay.
Okay, nice little tease. The New York Islanders, it needs to be reminded, finished third in the, like, they didn't just make the playoffs. They finished third. And yeah, if you finished third in the Metro or got the second wild card, you kind of found out about it maybe the last few days of the season. But this is a team on whom I think people are sleeping, maybe still for good reason, but not the most exciting team last year. They are still coached by Patrick Roy. Had to remind myself of that. They go out and have, shall we say, Peter, quite the offseason. After losing in 5 to the Hurricanes and only winning 1 game thanks to overtime, they go out and they add our friend Anthony Duclair to a really strong top 6, I should say, by the way. Like, they've got like some real dogs in their top 6. And then Maxim Tisplikov. Because of alphabetical order, we are discussing the Islanders before we discuss the Philadelphia Flyers. So at this point in the conversation, this is the biggest mystery player who is coming over from Russia to the Metropolitan Division. And I saw this moment for you in real time when we were looking around the league and studying up. And you said, who's Tisplikov? And I showed you my little study guide thing. And my first note is, Tisplikov, who is he? This is a guy that is going to be possibly in their middle 6, maybe ends up being a second, first line winger. This is what I can give you on him. He is a 25-year-old forward, 31 goals last season in the KHL, signed a 1-year entry-level contract, will be an RFA at the end of this deal, and it's kind of a mystery. He was like the biggest, we'll say, international free agent because Michkov was a drafted guy and they were just more signing him or whatever. But their offseason, in short, our guy Duclair and maybe our guy Tisplikov. You excited about these New York Islanders?
No.
All right. That's the Islanders.
Is this
Rangers.
a pro-Russia podcast?
But it's no endearing. Like, because I think they're going to be good. And like, I hate to do the Islanders aren't that interesting because like I do think
everyone knows that.
Yeah, and like it's been overblown at points where I think they actually have been interesting, and people just love to say that they're boring. They're not really exciting, but I think that they can be a good team. Like you mentioned, their top 6 is pretty good. Like you've got some good players in there. Bo Horvat, Matt Barzal, like Anthony Duclair, Brock Nelson, Paul Mary. If Anders Lee is in there, if Tisplikov is in there, like
they're returning 3 30-goal scorers from last season. Like, can we say that? Can we note that? They're returning 3 30-goal scorers from last season on a team that I kind of look at derogatory and ask, what are they good at? And you're like, maybe goaltending?
yeah.
Who? The guy that got benched
year.
last year and lost his job?
Year.
Like, I think that the thing that they're good at is they're returning 3 30-goal scorers from last season, and that number might grow when you add Duclair, who has had a 31-goal season in his career. I don't know about Tisplikov because famously
Nobody does.
no one fucking knows about him. And if you listen to any podcast that's breaking down Maxim Tisplikov, it's either a very good Russian podcast or it's a bunch of liars.
I was going to say, like, if somebody in the YouTube comments wants to, like, inform us of Tisplikov, that would be nice. But it also, we probably won't be able to read it because it'll be in Russian.
Yeah, maybe most of what we want to know about him is like who is he? That's what we're trying to figure out.
His dad is a Russian and Soviet hockey Hall of Famer.
Ooh.
Fun fact.
Whoa.
He's got some hockey bloodline.
Tell us,
There's
Sean.
pedigree there.
What else you got on him?
It's like, I don't know. This is all in Russian.
Yeah, that's about it. texting Shane Prince a lot, apparently.
Okay.
Cool.
And that's it.
Can we see those texts?
Are they in Russian?
Have they leaked?
The thing that like positive and negative about the Islanders is like they are returning not only 330 goal scorers, but like they're
People forget
returning
that.
so many players. Like I feel like they've had this team without like one or two guys here and there for so long.
They are the anti-Capitals.
Well, Capitals were doing that for a long time too.
Yeah,
until the wheels fell off.
Now
They are the Eastern Conference Minnesota Wild.
No, that's disrespectful.
in some ways, yes. I know what you're getting at.
How is it disrespectful?
Because the Islanders have actually done shit. The Wild have not. Like the
Yeah, I mean,
Islanders
that part's
made
true.
the Eastern
But
Conference
also,
Final
what
back
have
to-
the
back-to-back
Islanders done?
seasons. They went to the Eastern Conference Final back-to-back years and lost to the eventual Stanley Cup champions. Like if the Lightning weren't
I
the
get that.
Lightning, the Islanders could have made the Cup final.
That's fair.
In fairness to the Wild, they could have done something and we just wouldn't know about it.
Yeah, so fair.
That's fair. Yeah.
They could have been in the conference final 4 years in
I
a
would
row.
argue that. I mean, I know this isn't a Western Conference, but the Wild have a marginally more interesting roster than they have players that are, I think, on a national perspective, more interesting than anybody.
because
Islanders
there's
have.
more unknown with the Wild.
They
the
also
Islanders, the Islanders did need a Maxim Tisplikov where you're like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
Because you look at the rest of the roster, you're like, I know fucking everybody here.
Well, there's another team in the Metro that we'll talk about who their offseason is as much about who they did not get rid of as it is about who they added. Islanders have that going on too, because I'll note for their offseason, they did not get rid of JG Peugeot.
Mhm.
And he is in what? He's in his year 5 of a 6-year deal with a $5 million cap hit. I still remember when they acquired him and immediately signed him. Really liked that move. He always struck me as like a middle 6 center, two-way guy. And since he's been there, he has not had more than 40 points in a season for the Islanders. He had 33 points in 82 games last season. He turns 32 this season. And here's, I think, what I have realized maybe a little late, and what I hope everyone has realized. He's just not a two-way player because he is not an offensive player. So I think that we should be done wanting a little more out of JG Peugeot. He is simply, and there's nothing wrong with this unless you're getting paid a lot of money, which he is. There's nothing wrong with being a defensive player, and that's what he is. He's a third-line center, ideally maybe even a fourth-line center that you can just kind of sick on certain lines, but that's what he is.
That kind of happens a bunch too, where like a guy like that has an offensive surge and people like have hope that he's going to become and transform into and develop into a two-way player and a guy who can consistently put up those offensive numbers. But really what it is, it's just a surge, just like people have droughts.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't mean that they fucking suck. It just doesn't mean that that's who they're going to be for a long period of time. And I think that JG Peugeot, in that time frame where he was producing offensively, the commitment was to him being that long term, and I think that was a mistake.
He didn't use these exact words, but I always got the sense that Claude Julien thought that people overuse the term two-way player and two-way whatever when it comes to certain guys. I remember, I won't specify who, but there was a player that a young player who had a good game, and someone asked like, hey, for him to be a two-way player and do these things, like what else does he need to do other than just score goals? And Julien was like, oh no, he needs to score goals, because right now I don't think he's a two-way player, because he's a defensively smart and responsible player, but like you do need to score goals and make offensive plays to be the type of thing that you're talking about. And when Peugeot retires at the end of his career, I hope we'll all be like, that was a good player.
Mm-hmm.
Just not an offensive dynamo. And I won't even say was paid to be one, because you look at like $5 million isn't the end of the world. You wish that that guy is a second line center instead of what he'll probably be this season, third line center, but he stays there. And that's kind of the story of the Islanders, other than to note again, I'll note their PK stinks. That needs to be a lot better. But also the goaltending thing is something that you keep an eye on because Ilya Sorokin is entering the start of an 8-year deal. He lost his job to Semyon Varlamov last year. He was 14th in save percentage after back-to-back years of a 920 plus clip. He had a 908 save percentage, I want to say. This contract is 8 times $8.25 million. This is year 1 of it. Oh, and he had off-season back surgery. So that is we'll have to keep an eye on that situation.
Yeah. Assuming that the back surgery was to correct something that was ailing him last season, maybe. I don't know.
But even when you hear back surgery, doesn't that...
It's not great, but I also, if Sorokin gets back, no pun intended, to being...
A 1G.
A what?
1G.
A 1G, yes. I don't think we say 1G. But if he gets back to, who he was before that, which I think, that is more indicative of the player that he is. He was an elite goaltender.
He was an ASG,
yes.
all-star player.
So I'm not totally worried about him. The back surgery is always the unknown. But I will say another note on the Islanders. Huge for them the season that Noah Dobson had last year. He was a fucking beast. So if that continues and Noah Dobson is that player, congratulations to the Islanders because you got a fucking dog.
This episode of What Chaos is brought to you by Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into, get this, $1,000. Caleb Williams passing yards gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September. That's right, only 1 yard. Caleb Williams passing yards, by the way, when I said that, if he has passing yards is what I meant. 1 passing yards gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss this deal on Prize Picks because it's gone when September ends. And that's just the type of fun experience you can have on Prize Picks. Not every one will be as easy as that Caleb Williams one, but every win will feel as good. You don't know if he's getting 1 yard?
I mean, based off the way that offensive line plays,
you think
could get hurt on the first play from scrimmage.
All he needs is a little touch pass.
What?
He didn't even have to really throw the ball. A little touch pass, get somebody coming around the edge.
Sure, but you could get blasted on the first play from scrimmage. That offensive line should be thrown in jail.
Yeah, I mean.
But they took what's the guy's name with the 10th overall pick last year that they got from Carolina? They took an offensive lineman who I think is playing right tackle for them right now, but their offensive line just not very good. They still do have a 2nd-round pick, though, coming from that horrible Bryce Young trade this year. So they can invest, and at least in the meantime, just get 1 yard from Caleb Williams.
It's more than Bryce Young's going to get.
Yes. So things are looking up. And things are always looking up when you're using Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code WhatChaos and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code WhatChaos on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. That sounds good to me. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. You don't even need to win and you get that bonus.
Same with Caleb Williams.
Prize Picks. They're crazy for that one. I love it.
This episode also brought to you by our friends at Shady Rays. Summer's coming to an end here in New England, but the sun still exists. And if you want to protect yourself against that sun, you go to Shady Rays because they are the independent sunglasses company that offers a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. They've got hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style or even your team's favorite colors. We have Shady Rays. We love them, and we also don't have to worry about them because they have the best replacement and exchange policy in the GD business. Because if you don't love your shades, you can exchange them for a new pair or return them worry-free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back with personal and fast customer support. So exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code AC35 for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. That's Shady Rays.
The New York Rangers were the President's Trophy winner last season and famously did not have the run that they were expecting or hoping for. They add Riley Smith, who had an unremarkable season with the Penguins last year, and their offseason is, in addition to Smith, did not get rid of Jacob Trouba, which was kind of an ordeal. It also began with the Barclay Goodrow shenanigans, where Barclay Goodrow had a no-trade list, and they did some sneaky sort of waiving and claiming of
the no-trade list.
Circumventing the no-trade list. And then
circumcised the no-trade list.
And then they got actually kind of bit by no-trade stuff because they asked, before free agency began, they wanted to have Jacob Trouba's no-trade list, and he waited until the very last second that he legally had to give it to them, to make it tougher for them to trade him. And good for him. They end up returning him. Who knows what that's going to look like? But basically, that's their offseason. Didn't get rid of Trouba, added Riley Smith, did Barclay Goodrow dirty, mentioned Sam Carrick in one of the earlier team's previews, which I like. That ends up just being their kind of Goodrow replacement. But they end up running back a team that won the President's Trophy last season. And I would dare say we're maybe sleeping on them a little bit because it was the best team in the NHL in the regular season, and I don't think they got worse.
Yeah, but like they were like the flimsiest President's Trophy winners that we've seen in a while, where it wasn't like wire to wire, this is the best team in the league. It was just like, okay, there are a million teams in contention for the President's Trophy in the last 2 weeks of the season, and they snuck it out. So like saying that they were the best team in the league last year, I think is
it's a stretch, but I think
logically true, but literally true.
I think that we're talking about them a little less than we should. Like the biggest story with them is, well, what is the contract going to be for Shesterkin? I don't know if I've heard any, well, the Rangers are dead, or the Rangers are, or like who's going to contend with the Rangers in the Eastern Conference. I think that they're being treated as just like kind of one of the teams in the Metro. And maybe that's right. Maybe that's what they end up being. But I think they deserve a little more respect than they've gotten.
I mean, I guess like maybe I'm just looking at it differently. I just think that they're the same team that they were last year, and they're going to be in the same realm. Like they could very well finish as President's Trophy winners, or like very near the top of being President's Trophy winners again this year. But like they haven't really improved.
Right, but I guess that usually, like, look at the Panthers or whatever teams either win a President's Trophy or win the Cup or make whatever deep run. Usually there's some sort of sizable loss. Somebody is taken off that roster. All that is really changed for this team is they swapped out fourth line centers and added a middle six scorer. Like, I'll definitely take that if I'm the Rangers. So we see what happens there. I'll note President's Trophy winners the next year. One of our favorite stats on this show. 2022 Panthers lost in the second round, then back-to-back Cup finals the next 2 years, including a Cup win. 2021 Avalanche lost in the second round, won the Cup the next year. 2019 Lightning got swept in the first round, then went to 3 straight Cup finals and won 2. So if you're a Rangers fan feeling all mopey that you didn't win the Cup after winning the President's Trophy last season, maybe there's a run in it for you.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any reason to believe that they can't go on another deep run. It's just, I just don't think there's a lot of excitement around the Rangers because they haven't.
Matt Rempe's tall.
They haven't made a splash. Some of their really good players are a year older, in which that's not a positive, or at least may not be a positive. Like Lafreniere, great breakout season last year.
Arrows point up.
I could see him being significantly better for a full season this year. You got to find out what's happening with Capo Caco. Hopefully Hedl stays on the ice. Like those are the guys where you're like, okay, a year could do them some good and they could take another step. But like then you're talking about like Kreider, Zibanejad, Panarin, Trocheck. Like, is being a year older going to help those guys? Riley Smith, it's going to help him. I don't know.
Panarin had 120 points in his age 32 season last year. I don't know if he's repeating that, but if he's still kind of what he was, I mean, this Rangers team, I don't think that I'm not like going around taking up a collection for the Rangers, but I'm like, what am I missing here? That they're in a wide open Eastern Conference. The Rangers aren't really being treated as class-ish.
Yeah, I think that's wrong. Like, I think that they're in the top class of the Eastern Conference. I don't think there's any significant fall off. They still have the best goaltender in the league, arguably, and I think that they're going to be right around what they were last year, which is one of the best teams in the league.
They have the 5th best odds to win the Stanley Cup, the 2nd best odds in the Metro behind the Devils. Do you think, especially in the case of the latter, that is, you agree with that?
I think I'm more excited about the Devils, but I do feel like it's a little bit disrespectful to put the Devils over the Rangers.
So that's where I'm coming from. Whereas, like, what did these guys fucking do to everybody?
There's more unknowns with the Devils than there are with the Rangers.
And again, have to note, let me just give you, by the way, their overall stuff. 7th in goals for last season, 7th in goals against, very well rounded there. 3rd in power play, 3rd in penalty kills. So that was a tidy regular season for them. As I mentioned, 114 points, President's Trophy. And this is also year 2 of Matt Rempe, which is very important. He's tall. That 4th line is going to be really fun with Carrick and Rempe and whoever else is there. Maybe Jimmy Vesey. God bless. We love Matt Rempe on this show because everybody loves Matt Rempe anywhere.
Wasn't part of the narrative with them, or I guess with one particular, like Zibanejad not playing to like expectations more?
Oh, Zibanejad was bad in the
postseason.
In the playoffs, particularly,
Yeah. So, but regular season, Mika, good.
Yeah.
Postseason, so maybe they have a little bit of that Leafs thing of talk to us when they get to the playoffs. Philadelphia Flyers are a very, very fun and exciting team to discuss. Sean is throwing his hands up in the air. They are coming off an absolute collapse last season. They finished 6th in the Metro with 87 points. My favorite stat about the Philadelphia Flyers last year, okay? January 1st, top 3 in the Metro. February 1st, top 3 in the Metro. March 1st, top 3 in the Metro. April 1st, top 3 in the Metro. I will note, the regular season ends in April. They went on an 8-game losing streak and then lost 9 of the last 11 games to end the season, miss the playoffs, and finish 6th. Boy, you want to talk about a collapse. Like, that was a steady surprise team every step of the way, and they withstood a bunch of nonsense and shenanigans, famously the Cutter Gauthier stuff, famously Torts not talking to the San Filippo guy.
Couturier, though, scratching Sean Couturier.
They got through all of it, and then when it was like, hey, just finish the regular season, the Flyers said no.
It was unbelievable. The end of the season for the Metro was insane. Every team losing every game and just saying, does anybody want to make the playoffs? The Flyers, though, I think are not good.
Hey.
It just took until like the last 12 games of the season to see it.
So you believe in the last 2 weeks and not in the first, I don't know, like 30?
Yes.
Yeah? No,
yes.
I asked you a yes or no question. You gave me one of them. Okay. Well, they famously were awesome on the penalty kill. Do you remember what their situation was with their power play?
No.
It was like the fucking worst. It was so bad. They could not score goals. 12.2% clip, which was definitely 32nd in the league. They had the worst power play in the league. They were 27th in goals for, 19th in goals against. Goaltending wise, obviously the goodbye to Carter Hart was said. We were introduced to Ivan Fedotov, who
tall.
I love.
Very tall.
Really tall guy.
Mm-hmm.
So that was part of that. But the big thing with this offseason, and you see Matvei Michkov there in italics. Why? Because when we've written down on these graphics which players were added and lost or whatever, we'll put like a coach in italics to be like, yeah, they've added this person, but it's kind of a different situation. We're not noting with other teams one of their prospects is just on the team now. That is the case with the Flyers and Michkov, and it's the biggest case of this might be maybe a little hyperbolic, like the most intriguing addition to any NHL roster this season, just because this is a top 10 pick that famously was difficult to scout in his draft year. We've talked about him in other clips that you could probably find, but the Flyers take the chance. They bring him over from Russia this offseason. They announce it in a really weird, borderline threatening way when they say, ladies and gentlemen, we got him, which is what you're supposed to say when you catch somebody that your government is trying
terrorist.
to kill. Like,
Yes.
we think is a bad guy that we're trying to kill. That's how the Flyers announced that. Really weird move. But Matvei Michkov, I don't know if he is the answer to all their problems. We're going to find out, but when you look at their offseason, that's kind of what he's going to have to be. And especially with the power play. Like, he has to be the solution there. Otherwise, maybe they do suck as much as you think they do.
I can confidently say that he is not the answer to all their problems.
Fuck you. I'm going to be a big fan.
I'm in on the Flyers.
They have
Yeah,
far
Sean.
too many problems, but I think that he comes in and immediately becomes the face of the Flyers, which is wild. He is right now, I believe, the odds-on Calder favorite. I think that he is going to be a star in year one, which is awesome for the Flyers because I think they need that sexiness to them, which losing Cutter Gauthier, like he was going to be the sexiness that he brought to the Flyers. I love Michkov arriving. I think that he's going to be one of the biggest reasons to watch that team this year. I don't believe in the Flyers because I think that what Torts is good at is getting the most and the best out of his group. And we saw last year that he got some really good results out of a pretty underwhelming group. But that underwhelming group, when hitting the last like month of the season and just running out of gas and being really tired, showed that they kind of suck.
Did you see, speaking of Torts and Michkov, did you see what Michkov did during rookie camp?
Yeah, he had a back check.
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Why? Did he?
Yeah,
Did he try a Michigan or something?
He tried a Michigan.
Oh, my guy.
Yes. I'm so in on that by Michkov.
Well, the thing that's interesting is I remember early in last season, Torts making a comment more or less about how he has to build this team knowing that Matvei Michkov is going to be a part of it eventually.
Yeah.
And so I'm interested to see if that like completes a picture for them and it makes them, like, generally speaking, a better team.
Last year he was like, we're not going to have a power play because
Yeah.
we know that at some point
We have to build it
will be
around
there.
No,
Matvei
I mean,
Michkov.
like, that speaks to how good Michkov is supposed to be, that Torts is like, I have to change who I am to fit this guy in and make him happy, which is wild when he wasn't even there.
I think it's interesting that they were as successful as they were for most of last year when the head coach was like, we are building this team for next year or whenever Matvei Michkov arrives, obviously. And
this is so interesting.
there.
I think that we should all be Michkov guys. I really like Sean being a
Same.
Michkov guy, especially considering that he tried. I don't hear anybody say this, so maybe I stole it or whatever. But a Michigan that he tried a
Christ.
Michigan in front of Torts. It is rookie camp, which is your getting to know you. Hi, let's see if these kids can tie their skates. His first thing is, hey, coach, I'm here
Check
to
this shit
do.
out.
Yeah, hey, want to see some nasty shit I learned on YouTube?
And to answer the question, he did back check in rookie camp because there was a clip going
Which came
around,
first?
Because they let him on the ice for a second practice,
And
that's
because-
how you know.
and because like he's playing against other rookies, like that's the funniest part of rookie camp is like, check it out. He back checked. It's like, yeah, because he's playing against so many people that are worse than him.
Against whom? Michkov, by the way, 19-year-old left shot right wing, 41 points in 47 games for Sochi HC of the KHL last season. So all eyes are going to be on him. As for other moves they made, Eric Johnson, they bought out.
Yay!
They bought out Cam Atkinson.
They're
Well, What, you gonna cry?
Another uniform for Eric Johnson to weep in when he returns to Colorado.
Yes. I don't know why I just added this to my notes. I wrote, I'm a Risto guy. Year 3 of a confusing 5 times $5.1 million deal. Rasmus Ristolainen is still kind of one of the what's he doing? Why'd they do that sort of things? Mm-hmm. And 3 years into this experience, we still don't really know why they did that. Love it. Is he just be like a steady 5th defenseman? Maybe? I'm a Risto guy. I don't know why.
It's been a decade since anyone said that.
Since anyone's been a Risto guy?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Not me.
All right, fine. How about first full year of Jamie Drysdale? That's something about which the team can be excited.
Got to stay healthy.
Got to stay healthy. So you think they suck, huh, Peter?
I sure do.
Okay. Well,
I think that the Philadelphia Flyers, there's a chance, could finish below the Columbus Blue Jackets this year.
All right. I don't want to shoot my wad until watch our Capitals preview or if you're listening to this full episode or watch this full episode, wait till the Capitals preview because I'm going to make a declaration that involves both the Flyers and the Capitals.
Oh,
and
okay.
Pete, oftentimes on this show, I hope I'm not telling on you a bit, you wear hats.
Mm-hmm.
Next time you're wearing one, think about what I'm going to say about these two teams and just give it a little grip. Hold on to your hat. Okay.
Sounds good.
That's the type of thing it's going to be. So Philadelphia Flyers, congratulations. We love you very much. Pete loves you. It brings us to the Pittsburgh Penguins. And let me tell you what the Pittsburgh Penguins are. Get this, Pete. The Pittsburgh Penguins are, I workshopped this yesterday.
Okay.
They are an exhibit. That's what the Penguins are. They're an exhibit.
A penguin exhibit?
Oh, you've ever seen a penguin exhibit?
Oh, yeah. When they feed the penguins and everything, it's awesome.
You ever go to the Boston, the New England Aquarium?
Not since I moved here, but I had when I was younger.
Oh, buddy, you got to.
Do you want to go tomorrow?
They have one of the best penguin exhibits that you've ever seen.
It is.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember.
It's incredible.
That left a lasting impression.
And they have mad different types of penguins.
Yeah. And those things frolic all day long.
Huge penguin guy.
Yeah.
And some penguins, what I like about some penguins is some are really fucky.
Some are mean.
Oh, I thought you meant that in a literal sense because I do remember seeing penguins make more penguins.
Well, there was famously the thing like 10 years ago where Penguin caught his partner cheating on him. And then the, what would it be? The paramour fucking beat the shit out of the cock. It was such a tough scene. It's a tough video. That's your Penguins preview.
Way to describe actual penguins.
Oh, I mean, our friend John Feidelberg blogged it, which is how we found out about it. And it was like,
there was blood,
and
everywhere.
It was like this penguin found another. This penguin found his wife fucking another penguin, and then got his ass kicked. It was a very bloody scene.
It was. Like, it's crazy, but there was so much blood.
Jesus Christ.
So that's us talking about a YouTube video from a very long time ago.
I believe John Feidelberg, I believe this was in the write-up, was like the penguin beat the shit out of the other penguin and then while wearing his bathrobe or something.
There were so many memes about it. And there was like a meme of the penguin looking at the penguin, catching him, saying like, yeah, your robe comfortable as hell, and then I don't know if like what word it used, but yeah, it was a very popular video on the internet. That's the Penguins conversation. I kid, but the Penguins right now, I think kind of, after finishing 5th in the Metro last year, are an exhibit. They are do you want to come see Sidney Crosby, who's still freaking awesome? Do you want to come see Gino Malkin? Do you want to come see Chris Letang? Do you want to come see Erik Karlsson? And that's sort of what it is. If you are a parent with a young hockey fan, you want to take your kid when the Penguins are in town because there's a chance you're going to get to see your home team win, but you're also going to get to see these absolute legends. But the way their roster is comprised, I don't really know if they are more than a really cool hockey exhibit. Crosby 37, Malkin 38, Letang 37, Carlson, 34. They move Riley Smith. We discussed in the Rangers conversation.
Before you move on from that, like you just mentioned all those guys. They all had like really good
They're
years last
still
year.
good.
That's my biggest concern about the Penguins is that the Penguins, while all those guys had really, really good years last year, and Tristan Jarry, really, really good year last year, I don't have a lot of faith that they're going to be as good as those guys were last year.
So then they'll be really bad.
Right.
And so if they were bad with all those guys going off, what are they going to be if they're not there? Because the supporting cast is not great.
Mm-hmm.
I also feel like clearly I'm not very high on them, but I also add them into the hyperbole bunch where everyone's like, man, Penguins are kind of ass. You could also say, devil's advocate, that they're 4 deep at center, which they are. They got Kevin Hayes. Good, I'd say good for the third line center. You're going Crosby, Malkin, Hayes, Eller down the middle. That's good bones. And then
I don't know if that's good bones. Those bones like have osteoporosis.
You think that you don't like the
whatever.
bottom 6 bones? I could tell you don't like.
It's just the bones are all old.
Yes, but the bones were. Okay, so you think that the bones are frail in the top 6 and the bones aren't that good in the bottom 6?
I mean, I think the bones are frail in all of the
You don't like any of the bones.
Yeah.
You don't like Kevin Hayes' bones?
I mean, like I obviously like Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin.
We
Like,
don't do
very
Kevin-
good, but they're all just very old.
We don't do Kevin Hayes' body part talk on this podcast. We don't talk about his fingerprints and we don't talk about his bones. So watch your fucking mouth.
I
when you talk about
haven't
Kevin
I
Hayes.
haven't looked at the average age, but this has to be the oldest team in the league, right?
Uh,
By average age.
well, the Bruins are the fattest team in the league.
That's true.
We do remember that. And the Penguins wear similar colors. So
Sean, can we get a numbers crunch on the average age?
I'm working
I
on
mean,
it.
having
The
3
oldest team in the National Hockey League is the
who is it? Is it Penguins?
Pittsburgh Penguins, 31.9 years old. Second,
Oilers.
the Oilers at 30.6.
So that's what I was like, oh, you know who's going to be very up there is going to be the Oilers because of the Corey Perry shit.
And interestingly, the grownest team that we've talked about all year being grown adults, the Dallas Stars, are third. So they are.
That's
quite
kind of
literally
interesting because I
grown
would
adults.
think that with losing Pavelski and implementing more young guys, because the Stars kind of run the gamut with their type of roster. It's
Right,
such a
like
great
the
roster.
Stars have balance.
Yeah.
And that's why their average age is up there. The Oilers have balance, which is why their average age is up there.
To be
The
fair,
Penguins are just averaging being old.
No, Peter, they got Rutger McGroarty.
That's the one
bitch.
guy. The one guy that's like, oh, he's fun and young and exciting.
to be fair, these stats I believe are weighted based on time on ice. So they are like
Oh,
it is based on how much time the players spend on ice.
I like those weighted stats. I would also just like a straightforward. Like,
Yeah, right.
Is the
Just tell
roster?
me.
yeah, just fucking tell us if the roster's old. But yeah, I mean, if you have 3 guys, you're not supposed to have 3 guys who are 37. Their problem is they have 3 guys who are 37, and they all mean so much to the team.
Mhm.
Sidney,
A base stat: the Pittsburgh Penguins are 4th. The Islanders are the oldest team.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay, so I'll go back to the question though of like if maybe we're too down on them. So you don't like the bones of the forwards, but they have a good center on each line, we'll say. They have a good to star to big name on each of their top 2 pairings, and they had a goalie who wasn't bad last year. Aren't those bones good?
Yes. Like I don't think that they are going to be bad. I think I did say bad.
I
That
think
was the
people think they're going to be bad.
That is
though.
the first word that I said. You said the Penguins are going to be, and I said bad.
That's why
I think that is hyperbole. I think that they are going to be mid to like a shade in either direction.
Okay.
To be clear, for some reason it popped up the 2020-21 season.
Oh.
So the Penguins are second oldest behind the Edmonton Oilers.
Okay.
I'll note their power play has to be better than it was last year. Their power play was perplexingly horrible, and they've subtracted Jake Gensel off of it, but they were 30th in the league in power play last year. They started so bad, had a stretch, I want to say, in the second half of the season where it got better, but
That was like the biggest shock in the entire league.
they
last
couldn't
year.
score a goal on the power play when
And-
they had Crosby, Malkin, Gensel, Rust, and Carlson. What the fuck?
Yeah. I mean, I remember like heading into the preseason and everybody being like, The Penguins may not be that good, but they are going to have a power play that lights the world on fire.
People thought they could get to the playoffs just on their power play, and their power play was aggressively bad. It wasn't Flyers bad.
It was tough to watch.
It was gross. It was problematic, and it was not okay. We didn't fucking like it. Okay, Sean, you got something?
No.
Okay,
I agree.
You were
I was
smirking.
Yeah.
You just like us calling the Penguins problematic. They did get Rutger McGroarty after he didn't sign his entry-level contract with the Jets. He played at Michigan, but is from Nebraska, which keeps the Nebraska Penguins thing alive. So that's very important.
Jake Ensel, also from Nebraska, for anybody who doesn't know what we're referring to.
But didn't really claim Nebraska, we came to learn.
Well,
he grew up somewhere else.
Sebastian Aho was told us to get off the Jake Ensel Nebraska thing. In fairness, I think Sebastian Aho would have told us to get off any fun topic that we brought up at the time. He was locked in. He was just getting ready for the playoffs. Okay, so that's the Penguins. No. I have a conspiracy theory.
Okay.
Ooh,
fun.
People are going to wish that we were done here. Sidney Crosby famously signed for 2 more years at $8.7 million. He always signs for his number, right? So we've got 3 more years of Sid. Great stuff. Love it. Even if, I don't think people give Sidney Crosby enough shit for you're not supposed to do that. You're not, if you're the best player, you're not supposed to significantly be underpaid. It's bad for the union.
I think Dom Lucian did a math equation and said that Sidney Crosby has left approximately $45 million on the table.
So that's obviously it's a wonderful thing that Crosby values the team over self. He also values the team over fellow players in a sense, but that's okay. Whatever. I love a player and I understand a player being I want to win. I want to give the team the best chance to win. So I'm going to take less. If he's taken less to return to this team, is he really prioritizing winning? Because they're not going to be able to build a winner around him in a short amount of time. So I wonder, did he take less on this contract
to be more tradable?
He is easier to trade if and when I don't know if that gets a straight up no, and Penguins fans are going to be so mad about this. But if in let's say halfway through next season, or in the final year of that deal when he's 39 or when he's 40, and he's like, you know what, I want to go to Colorado or I want to go to wherever, and it's going to cost a team $4.3 million to get me in a deal. A good team that doesn't have a lot of cap space would be able to figure out how. Are you pointing to the Buffalo Sabres, Sean?
I am pointing to the Buffalo Sabres.
Okay, the Sabres or somebody else will say. But I love that.
They do have $8 million in cap space.
I love this for the Sabres. In 2 years, when they are so clearly a Sidney Crosby away from winning a cup, it is just a fact, will be more easily addable than he would have been if he was making what he deserves, which realistically is $11 million.
The exact Dom Lucian stat was $43 million by taking 8.7 every season since 08-09.
So that's my conspiracy theory that Sid is just preparing.
It's too thin. It's too thin. If Sidney Crosby wanted to make himself more tradable, he wouldn't sign a 2-year contract extension, even if it is for less money.
Yes, he would. Because what if he gets hurt? This is preparing for this is being prepared for any situation.
Yeah,
if the Penguins get good, if he gets hurt, or if the Penguins get really bad and they want to say to him, hey, do you want to do a Ray Bourque situation? He's positioned to do that.
He could be, but I don't see it. I see he's going to retire in Pittsburgh. I just don't see him leaving Pittsburgh. I think that if he was interested in finishing his career elsewhere to push for Stanley Cups, it would have been in his best interest to not sign that 2-year extension right now. Because this team, you're going to find out about this team this year. And if they're trending down, which wouldn't be shocked, why would he sign up for 2 more years when he could either sign somewhere else of his choosing that doesn't cost the Penguins something?
Sean, why would he do that?
Well, I don't know.
Penguins.
I don't know if you have a specific reason.
I do.
Oh, go for it.
So we can leave them with something.
Yeah,
That happens in the NBA.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know. It might not necessarily be like a doing this for the Penguins kind of thing, but more as like a parachute. Whereas like if he realizes, like he wants to give the Penguins, because I agree that he wants to end his career with the Penguins. He wants to give them an opportunity to lose or to build. But if they get halfway through a season, they clearly aren't on that path. He could be like, get me the fuck out of here. And they'll have the ability to do that without it. I don't think it's necessarily he's doing it so like if the Penguins decide they want to get rid of him, or if he decides he wants to leave.
And he has a no move in this deal. So
Yeah.
I think it's what you said. I think it's preparing for any situation that may arise becomes doable. And I also don't think that he's like, I'm planning on leaving the Penguins, but I think that it is possible. I don't think that he wants to leave the Penguins. I don't think that this was like a get me out of here thing, but I think it is I don't know what the future holds. I do know that I'm going to be done playing hockey soon, and who knows what a year from now looks like for me and the Penguins, and who knows what 2 years looks like for me and the Penguins. Can I get, Sean, because I think you'll be a little more friendly with this, can I get a conspiracy theory grade?
I'll give it an A. Like it's not. I think like I definitely think he is keeping his options open. Like I don't think. I agree that he is more than likely going to retire a Penguin, but I think he has definitely left the door open for that to not happen.
Pete, can I get a conspiracy?
Here's what I'll say: the logic. There's something there that it could make sense, but do I believe that Sidney Crosby wants to finish his career somewhere else? No. And do
Agreed.
I believe that he signed for $8.7 million to make it easier to be traded? No.
I mean,
don't think so.
The one thing I will give you is like it would be much easier to make the case that you're making, DJ, if he hadn't been signing for exactly $8.7 million for the last decade.
Yeah.
Like it
It's
definitely
just the only contract that he knows how to sign.
Yeah, like
Oh, I believe that.
but I do think that it, even if not the explicit reason why he did it, it certainly leaves the ability for him to have options.
The one place where you've got me, where you put me in a corner and you said I fucking gotcha, is to give the Penguins something in a trade back.
Which
Just a
I
little
100%
parting gift.
believe is on his mind. Like if this does not go well, I think he wants to leave the Penguins in a good situation.
I
You
think-
don't
Go out
remember
west.
when
I think maybe the Penguins go to him and say, like, listen, if this doesn't go well and we have to trade you, like, we got to be in a position where we're okay.
You don't remember when the Celtics won the first overall pick with the Nets pick, and Paul Pierce was like, couldn't be happier to leave them with. And it's like, you weren't planning on that happening. That just ended up like being really, really lucky, and also you didn't want them to trade you. But I do know that when teams like, I'm sure that like the easiest comp with this would be the Ray Bourque situation when he went to Colorado for the final 2 years of his career, where it makes him feel better that, well, I got them a little something at least. But his heart's always going to be there. That's your Penguins preview. Penguins fans, I hope you still love us. Make sure you're subscribed to
They're
the
gonna kill
YouTube,
you.
please. Penguins fans hate hearing any sort of whiff of that stuff, and I would too.
I will say, I feel like a complaint that I've seen from Penguins fans is usually it's Canadian media that are trying to pull Sydney out of
True.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
All Americans right here.
So I stole that conspiracy theory from a Canadian person. So subscribe to us. We're the good guys. Love you very much. Are the Washington Capitals the most chaotic team in the NHL? Because they made the playoffs last year, and leading up to them making the playoffs, we were like, Capitals, don't make the playoffs. You're going to be food. We kept using the term food to describe them. They made the playoffs, and they got just absolutely swallowed up, as was expected. Were they swept by the Rangers in the first round? I want to say they were.
They sure
Yes,
were.
I was
They
very
were
much rooting for them
emphatically
not to
swept.
be swept. I was very much, in fact, rooting for them to upset the Rangers.
Oh,
And
yes,
that
right.
didn't happen.
Okay, so they were swept by the Rangers in the first round. They were a streaky, crazy team last year. Their run to the playoffs consisted of them dropping 6 straight and then winning 4 of 5 and just sneaking in. And since then, they have done absolutely wild shit. Their offseason is probably the craziest of any teams. As we said earlier in the offseason, they got all of the, well, where's that guy going to go, guys? Headlined by Pierre-Luc Dubois. They also added Jacob Chychrun, who for sure was on that list. Andrew Mangiapane, I'd say it would be a little disingenuous to say that he was a guy that we were like, who's going to take on that guy? I think that was just they were more like a good player's available. Sure, we'll take him. And they also get Logan Thompson to play behind Charlie Lindgren. We definitely don't know what this team is going to be, but I'm very excited about him. I know that both of you guys are too, because it's just a real wacky situation, probably headlined by the PLD acquisition, which was a bit of a head scratcher, but also they've got, I think, a good coach, right? In Carberry. We liked him last year, especially the second half of the season. So this could go anywhere. I mentioned earlier in the Flyers thing that I've got something crazy I'm going to say. I'll say that a little later on, but what do you make of the Washington Capitals?
I am so intrigued. I think they could be quite good. Not like contender good, but we saw what Carberry got out of like his largely AHL group because he was familiar with a lot of those guys and they were successful. Like the young guys in that lineup were pretty solid. I also think that some of their problems were masked by really good goaltending from Charlie Lindgren at the end of the year. Their special teams was solid, and they were skating by on those things. But like, this is a really intriguing hodgepodge of nonsense going on with this team. I think that there's like they got a decent mix of talent. It's not amazing, but I don't think that they're going to be like uninteresting or awful. So I'm in. I do wish that they had Ryan Leonard. I do wish Ryan Leonard signed and is going to be involved with that team. I would feel a lot better about them.
Ryan Leonard, young stud prospect at center, plays at Boston College.
He's so good.
Going to stay at BC this year, it seems. So I think that they will miss Nick Jensen. I think that's a loss, but I think that getting Chychrun is interesting. Everything they did really is interesting. This is one of two teams, the other being the Flyers, that I could believe finishing in any spot in the Metro, including first and eighth.
I don't think that they're going to finish first in the Metro.
I don't think they are going to finish first in the Metro either. But if you were to tell me, hey, what's the craziest thing that happened in the NHL this season? Oh, the Capitals, that wild card team from last season, ended up making the jump to first in the Metro. Everything would have to go right for them. And that's the thing with them and the Flyers, where the difference between their everything goes right and everything goes wrong is so freaking enormous. Because if everything goes right, and Pierre-Luc Dubois, who they get in the second year of his 8 times $8.5 million contract, who had 16 goals, 24 assists for just 40 points in 82 games with the Kings last season, has never had 65 points in a season. If he ends up being a real first-line center, absolute stud, he and Ovechkin are monsters together.
Not going to be. I
don't think he's ever going to be that guy either. But if he ends up being the guy that multiple teams, for some reason, have thought he could be, and I think like the reason they think that is, it's like, look at him. He should be awesome at hockey, and he's good at hockey. But if he ends up being a star, and if Mangiapane is really good, which he's a good to really good player, and Lindgren's awesome again, if everything goes right, if John Carlson is still a stud defenseman, finds fountain of youth, et cetera, Sonny Milano, all these guys, there's so many interesting players on this roster. If everything goes right, then they're a playoff team, and maybe they're better than that. If everything goes wrong and Pierre-Luc Dubois craters and Ovechkin starts to really feel his age and Carlson feels his age and Lindgren comes back to earth and everything like that, like, they could suck. And there are so many guys on that team that are, I don't want to say like enigmas, but kind of hockey enigmas.
Yeah.
What if the vibes are off? Like that is believable with that group. So I can see anything happening with this team.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I think it's more likely. Yes. And I think the team defense could be an issue with that team. But, like, you know, given what you've got in the Metro, I think they're somewhere in the middle, like in the middle to like lower end of the middle. But, like, I think that they could be. I think they could be a playoff team again. I really do. Like, I just think that, like, there's so much unknown, but they're an interesting team that is, like you mentioned, kind of can catch fire.
I'll note that with the exception of like one or two, every line or D pairing or position group has a newcomer on. So like let's say their first line is right now. Daily Faceoff has Wilson and Ovechkin flanking Dylan Strome. Other than that, every forward group has a newcomer. Both the top 4 pairings has a newcomer. Logan Thompson, a newcomer in tandem with Charlie Lindgren. There's so much change in this team, and none of it is like a Nick Foligno ad, shall we say. It's a lot of it is a, well, what's going to happen here kind of ad.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they're very much trying to look for magic, and they're taking some chances. And in the case of PLD, like, they're taking a huge chance. But the alternative is, like, what else are you gonna do? Are you just gonna let this team like rot and fall apart?
And I respect that, because the worst thing that this team can be, and this is my one prayer for the Washington Capitals, I hope that their season is not an Ovechkin milestone chaser. That is one of my least favorite things in hockey in recent years, is the focus on Alexander Ovechkin's goal chases and record chases and everything, because none of that is his fault. He's been on not amazing teams, and the only obvious interesting thing for a lot of media and fans to focus on is how close is Ovechkin to this thing. And I can tell you off the top of my head, I think Ovechkin is 41 goals shy of Wayne Gretzky. So if they suck this year, every time they're on national TV, that will be the conversation with the Washington Capitals. And I think that is so fucking boring and uninteresting, because I love Alexander Ovechkin and I've already made up my mind. And I'm pretty confident in what I think Ovechkin is. And I think that we all know that he's the fucking best goal scorer. So I want more out of watching the Capitals than, hey, he's 31 goals away now, or hey, he's 26 goals away now. It's like, well, he's not going to score 26 goals tonight. So can we have something else interesting going on?
And like, for his sake, you don't want for that moment, if he beats Gretzky's goal record, you don't want it to be like a sad sack affair where like he's being dragged across that milestone by a bunch of fucking bums, and he's expected to be I know that he's the captain, but at this point in his career, he shouldn't be expected to be the best player on that team.
There is one player in the NHL right now who every time he hits a milestone, I'm like, fuck yeah. And you know who that is?
It's just Connor McDavid.
It's Connor McDavid. And not just because it's Connor McDavid, possibly because like this is the guy that has a chance to be the undisputed GOAT when all is said and done and everything. It's because him hitting a milestone isn't just him hitting a milestone.
It comes
it's
in
like
tandem with a great team
it's
thing.
like this Oilers thing. Do they fucking have something? And I want it to be that with Ovechkin. Sean?
I was going to ask, like, generally speaking, your level of concern with Alex Ovechkin. Like, still being, obviously, he's not going to be a bad NHL player, but, like, had his worst full season of his career, tied for the lowest point total in a full season in his career, and disappeared at the end of the season, pointless in that playoff series. Like, is he
It is worth noting that you're coming off like the worst season of his career. He scored 31 goals.
I know, but I'm saying, like, he's obviously old.
Yeah.
There's going to be, if we're not already in the process of it, a downward slide towards the end of his career. Like, he scored 31, only scored 31 last year. Is it like, are you assuming that it's going to be as good or better?
And I think the fear in your voice, Sean, is you don't want this to be an Emmitt Smith breaks the rushing record thing where
2.5 yards at a time.
they're like, here, we're going to commit penalties and hope they don't get called because that's the only way you're going to be able to gain half a yard because you're so old and bad at this.
And them, like, because I think you saw it at points, like them sacrificing playing good hockey just to try and give him an opportunity to score goals.
Yeah, I don't want us, viewers, media, fans, I don't want us going out of our way for this thing, and I don't want him or his team going out of their way for this thing because he's been too great a player, and I don't want his, I don't know, victory cigar, cherry on top or whatever to smell bad and be expired and moldy and everything like that. I want, imagine playoff push, or dare I say, like, going for first and like a big game against the Hurricanes late in the season, and it's for first in the division, and based on the wild card teams, you really want to make sure you get first because you don't want to play the third team in the division. It's a big game, and Ovechkin scores the game winner in the third period, and that's his 42nd goal. That is what I want, and then we'll all remember when he scored his 42nd goal. That is just peak vibes. Also, hell of an assist from PLD on the goal. That's all the shit I want.
Yeah, like even if the Caps aren't good, a resurgent Alex Ovechkin year in which like they're in the middle and not bad, and he scores 42 goals this season would be awesome. Would be great. And I will say, like, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility whatsoever.
This is us wrapping our heads around it. We're wrapping our heads around a fun Washington Capitals season. Just please don't suck.
Yeah. I think that I'm more willing to say that they're going to be fun than they're going to be bad.
But you think they are going to be bad. But you're also more willing to say, and I'm not trying to take corner you, but you also think they're more likely to be bad than good. Or really bad than really good. You can amend.
So I'm kind of in the same spot with them as I am with the Penguins, where I think they're going to be mid in a shade of either direction.
Can I give you something that might not be interesting at all, but could also potentially be very interesting?
That's what the show's all about. Subscribe on YouTube.
Final game of the season, if they're fighting for maybe a wild card spot, third place, at Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins.
I want him to break the record in the final game of the season.
What I'm saying, especially if it's a game where it means something. It's like Ovi gets the goal record
right in
Sid
Crosby's face
in Pittsburgh.
That's a scheduler's decision.
Oh yeah,
they absolutely did that on purpose.
Although the weekend before that, they play back-to-backs. A back-to-back home or away.
So they play the Penguins like 3 times in the last 2 weeks of the season.
No. What I was gonna say is the weekend prior to that, they play at and then home against the Columbus Blue Jackets, which could mean Ovi puts up like back-to-back hat tricks, and then it doesn't matter.
Okay, how about this? Saturday, February 22nd, national game. They play at Pittsburgh. Ovi scores his 42nd goal. The Capitals are now first place in the Metro. Sidney Crosby says, it's late February.
Trade me.
I think I want to go to the Capitals.
Trade me right fucking now.
He scores the goal to seal Sid to Washington. And then we would all be, it would be impossible to be too annoying about that team. Like everyone will be like, Sid and Ovi. Like nothing you could say about that will annoy me. So fucking in.
Do you think it's
conspiracy theory complete?
Do you think it's more likely that Sidney Crosby gets traded to the Washington Capitals or Alexander Ovechkin gets traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins?
I want to continue this conversation with a straight face because I want to clip this so badly and put it out on which social media platform would react most angrily to it.
Twitter.
Twitter is going to be the angriest about it. No, it's like let's put it on Facebook.
Actually, I think it's probably Instagram because Instagram has less of a feel on who we are as people. And like Twitter would be like, these motherfuckers are just trying to stir shit up. Instagram would just be like, who the fuck are these clowns? You idiots, blah, blah, blah.
We got to anonymously.
Actually, TikTok might be the maddest.
Okay.
Post this in r/Penguins and just be like, look at these guys talking about Sid.
Let's
see how they react.
absolutely do that. Pete, ask that question again with a straight face, and I've got an answer.
Dead serious question for you. Is it more likely that Alexander Ovechkin gets traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins or Sidney Crosby gets traded to the Washington Capitals?
I don't know which is more likely, but one's happening this season. Easy.
Nice.
One's definitely happening this season. Right? Right, Sean?
Yeah, 100% agree. One of them's happening.
All right, that's our social clip, and that's our Washington Capitals conversation. By the way, you mentioned sprinkling some money on some teams. Plus 7,000 are the Capitals to win the cup. I'm jokingly going to put down plus $7,000.
Just light it on fire.
Yeah. Hey, friends, let me tell you about Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search, Peter, for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search.
Well, wasn't thinking about it.
Don't.
I won't.
Sean, what are you doing? I saw your hand on your computer. Were you searching?
Not for employees.
I'm a big John Mayer guy, but I'm not interested in the search.
The search for everything. The search
No.
for nothing.
Exactly.
Don't search. Sean, your computer's on your hands on your computer again. Both hands up. Stay on camera. Hands up the rest of this time. I don't want to see them hands. Don't search. Match.
I thought you did want to see the hands.
I want to. Yes.
Yeah, he wants to see the hands doing nothing.
I don't
Yes.
want to see the
Well, then you
hands.
say you don't want to see the hands. The best place for me to hide my hands is behind my computer. But
I want to
got
see
hands
your
up.
hands. I don't want
I'm
to see
not
your.
searching.
Don't search. Match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling. Pete, let me know if he.
Listen,
I want to see him hire.
I don't want to. I'm being forced to make assumptions here. You need to see the black guy's hands, and you're just totally ignoring my hands.
That is
Whoa.
true. You don't know if Pete's searching.
Yeah, you have not even spent a second looking at my hands,
His hands-
and you're just so concerned about Sean's hands.
That's terrible. Still,
Let me see your hands.
Still, well, then I just need to see your hands. I mean, your hands were on your pants, which were not obstructed by your computer, so I could see your hands, not on a computer.
It's the best ad read of all time.
I want both you guys to keep your hands up. I don't want to see you searching. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. So your hands can be on your computer if you're just using Indeed, but I don't want to see you searching. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/AllCity. Just go to Indeed.com/AllCity right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/AllCity. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
All right, hands down.
Hands down, boys.
My arms are getting tired.
Boy, are my arms tired.
Today's episode also brought to you by our friends at PXG. We love them. You probably do too. But if you don't, it's because you haven't gone to a PXG retailer near you and tried out their Black Ops driver and their new irons, because both of those are in my golf bag and I love them both to the ends of the earth. My iron game is always a work in progress. So when I heard the new PXG Black Ops irons can dramatically improve my game, I said, I don't think so, but I'm willing to test it out. I had to give them a try. I booked a fitting at the PXG location nearest to me. That's in Boston, and brought my current irons and took the PXG Irons Challenge. I did the same thing with the driver months and months ago. I was proven wrong in my skepticism about PXG at that point in time. And once again, they sold me on the PXG irons.
You were skeptical, susceptible to them, and when you swung the club, what'd you find?
I found that there was a lot of forgiveness.
A lot of forgiveness in that swing.
Forgiveness.
And I got to say...
I will say that's the reason why I was skeptical, because I was like, listen, I suck at golf. There's no way that you've got enough forgiveness in those clubs to make me feel good about myself.
I mean, I even went for my fitting, and it was the same deal. I was like, we'll find out how much forgiveness there is, because I don't swing the clubs as often as I used to. Let's see if there's forgiveness. And they were there, so much so that you said you've got a bunch of clubs you got a bunch of PXG clubs in your bag.
Almost exclusively PXG clubs.
I'll be honest, I don't have PXG clubs in my bag because I use them so often. I got them lying around the house. My wife is like, I'm tripping over your clubs again.
This is your second wife.
Yes. Well, the first one,
first wife left you because you didn't have PXG irons.
Wasn't a lot of forgiveness there. With these clubs, though, oh yeah, baby. She's tripping over them all the time.
The new PXG Black Ops irons are game improvement missile launchers that feature X-Core 2 technology and dual cavity design that combines with their high-strength, ultra-thin, miraging steel club face to deliver superior forgiveness, absolutely explosive distance, and a feel that's softer than a baby bunny. New Black Ops irons. That's why your wife is so jealous.
Why?
Because you were saying these things feel softer than a baby bunny, and she says you used to say that about me.
What is your? I used to often compare my wife to a baby bunny. I used to be like, you know how you're like a baby bunny, kind of. That's what I used to say.
Mm-hmm.
They do the grip. That was when I went for my fitting. I texted you boys and I said, "Hey, hope you're enjoying having the best grips on the show, because once I get these new puppies, I spent as much time on the grip, I'll be honest, as I did on like the head and the shaft and all that. I wanted good grip. I got the best grip going now, and there's a lot of forgiveness in that grip. The term forgiveness gets thrown around a lot, but there's forgiveness in the grip.
That's right.
And in the shaft.
It's too much. This is so much sexual innuendo.
I didn't even mean
golf.
that. Just when you say shaft, it's I don't
Grip,
like the word shaft. For
yeah, head, yeah, it's enough. New Black Ops irons are incredibly easy to hit and maximize performance and fun. Oh, and they're only $149.99 a stick. That is a great price for a great golf iron.
That's bad business on their part.
Yeah, like they're like Sidney Crosby, just constantly leaving money on the table.
Are there clubs?
You know you can charge more for this.
Like, were they born on January 49th or something? That's the only reason that makes sense to sell those for $149.
Take the PXG Irons Challenge. It's a ton of fun, and if PXG's new Black Ops irons don't outperform your current irons by delivering either more distance or tighter dispersion, that means better accuracy for you bozos. During your fitting, you will get a $100 MasterCard rewards card. Oh, this is ridiculous.
Billy Crudup just coming over to you and just being like, priceless.
They're just giving away money, which they're not, because you're going to be impressed by their irons. Hurry, this offer ends October 7th. Book your fitting today at pxg.com. That's pxg.com. I will say, like, this preview has made me feel and probably look and sound like an idiot way more than the Atlantic one, because it's hard to wrap my brain around a lot of these teams in the Metro.
But I don't think anybody will give you shit for it. Like, if you are completely wrong about this division, no one's gonna. If you're wrong about like the Lightning, people will give you shit for that.
This one was more fun, and we fucked around on it more. I think that my fuck up at the beginning, or my being distracted by 1C, 2C thing, set us down a road that got us fucking around a little bit.
I think that's also a product of what this division is.
Yes.
My hope for this division is that we don't find out everything about it in like the first month and a half, whereas like, oh, the Capitals suck. Like, oh, the Penguins are just going to be like, I want this division to be so dysfunctional and like
you want it to be what it was last year.
Basically what it was last year, because that was fucking interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
it was
the
bad,
first 80
but we
games
were
of the
like,
season don't mean
what the hell
shit.
is going on?
Not to dip back into the Washington preview, but like, how amazing would it be if the first month of the season PLD is just fucking going off? That would be amazing. And I remember talking about it at the time of the trade. Like, there's always, whether it's which Shen is it? I know it was the Ryan O'Reilly, when the Blues got Ryan O'Reilly, and obviously he helps them win a cup and everything. Whenever a center is moved and a team trades for a center, if anything remotely good happens with that team, all of the national writers are like, see, and good centers are hard to come by. This team really extended itself, and it's because you want to have good centers. If PLD does anything, it's going to be so easy to be like, see, and they're a smart team because they did that. It's like, no, they took a fucking risk, man.
They were down so bad that they traded for PLD before his contract extension kicked in.
No, it started last year, right? I think this is year 2.
No, I believe this is year 1.
Oof.
I could be wrong.
I think that he was an RFA when they got. Oh no, maybe it was. I think he was RFA when they got him, or UFA, and it was like a trade of rights situation.
Last year was the first year.
Okay, so it was the no movement clause that kicked in.
Oh, right, that is.
Yes, this was the first season. Yep.
And there was some stuff of like, you better buy him out now, or you can't, or whatever. And they were like, no, we're just going to trade him with no money retained because we found a taker. The crazy ass Washington Capitals. But it would also suck if I can't have the PLD experience in Washington be 7 years of bad vibes or 5 years of bad vibes and then trade half of it with retain and everything. Like, I want there to at least be ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
Give me ups and downs.
Like give me the tease. It's like, ooh, is he figuring it out? Ooh, is he going to be a really good player? We got some of that in LA.
Yeah.
But it was just like one game at
we
a time.
got very little of it. Okay, do we want to try to put these into some final standings?
Yes.
All right. Who is finishing first in the Metro, Pete?
I will take the Devils or the Rangers, whatever one you are more comfortable with. I think for respect purposes, I would say like the Rangers, but I did place a bet on the Devils winning the President's Trophy, and you can't win the President's Trophy if you don't win the division.
I want to go Rangers just because I feel like you're standing out by not fucking picking the Devils to win the cup this year or something. Like it is chalk to go Devils over the reigning President's Trophy winners.
I'm cool. Let's do Rangers then. Rangers number 1 in the division.
Rangers number 1. Number 2, can I give you the Philadelphia Flyers?
You absolutely
please?
cannot. I will take the New Jersey Devils, please and thank you.
New Jersey Devils. Okay. Number 3.
Carolina Hurricanes.
How about the... Okay.
How about no?
Number 3, thinking something a little spicy. There's this guy, Matvei Michkov. He does the Michigan in front of Torts, and Torts is like, oh, brother, this is the future? I guess I'm the past. Okay. Number 3, we're going Carolina Hurricanes?
Yep.
Okay. 4, now we are into...
It feels so boring, but...
Don't go Islanders.
Yeah, logically, it's got to be the Islanders.
I think that 4 is where we can start having fun.
No, it's not. Let's say the Islanders.
Well, what is fun to you?
If fun starts at 5.
Okay.
Fun starts at 5. I'm sorry. Top 4 is miles better than the bottom 4.
I kind of want to go.
There is a real separation point here.
I don't feel like you can make an argument for any team being above the Islanders that isn't just based off this would be fun.
Yes, this would be cool.
That's what I'm basing this whole thing on.
We have to. I think I want to go with logic. You want to go with vibes and cool potential. I get it.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to agree with you.
Okay, fine. Let's go Islanders. Only because we're friends with Anthony Duclair. He's a great man.
But here is where the fun starts. Fun begins at 5.
For what it's worth, I would like if the Islanders finish lower than 4th, I wouldn't be surprised by it.
Yes.
Like, I mean, you mentioned the goalie situation. That's a big question mark. If that's not good.
I still have more faith
but
in what they have on their back
agree
end.
that you're making a gamble. You're like betting on things to go wrong in order for the Islanders to finish lower.
Shit, you know what I'm realizing? We're coming, I know that we put the Devils second, but we're kind of, in a way, coming up with something that looks very similar to last year's final standings, which is what you're probably going to do with any division, I guess.
I mean,
but
no, we were a little
Devils.
We were fun with the Atlantic.
Yeah,
it was different.
Okay, no, I'm saying like I'm saying it's not a shock if somebody's predictions are similar to what last year was because how much the teams
they're just being cowards.
Last in the Atlantic preview, you did stake a claim that the Sabres are making the playoffs as a wild card team because you
That's
put them
right.
4th.
Okay, well then
I'm asking, do you have another wild card team?
Oh, no. For these, we get to reset and pretend that we didn't pick any wild card teams in another division. So in this, we can pretend that 2 teams make the wild card from the Metro. All right, next So who do we have remaining? We have the Penguins, we have the Flyers, we have the Capitals, and we have the Blue Jackets.
To be fair, also off that last point, there were basically 3 wildcard teams that made it from the Metro last year.
You're not
That's right, because the third spot in the Metro was absolutely a wild card spot.
We have the Capitals, the Penguins, the Flyers, and the Blue Jackets. In my pick here, I have the Capitals.
Oh, yeah, I'll go Capitals. I'm doing that for fun. All right. Penguins or Flyers?
Columbus Blue Jackets.
Very much in the Penguins.
Oh, you're going to go Penguins because you might go Flyers above the Blue Jackets.
If you're cool with it, I would love to.
I'll give you that.
I am writing these down under protest.
Yeah. I mean, as you can see with these, I'm less beholden to that I'm picking this and this is locked in or whatever. This is more a conversation that I will definitely attribute more to Pete in case they're wrong.
No, yeah, I mean, like, but I have them. I have just like what I am feeling.
Yeah,
I did move some around in the Atlantic, so I'm cool. Like, I would be fine if you felt strongly about the Penguins over the Capitals or something. I project more excitement in rooting for the Capitals than the Penguins this year, so I kind of want them to be 5th.
Rutger McGroarty Calder Trophy and Penguins just go off.
I just want to be on record and say that in my own personal predictions, I have the Flyers 4th.
Wow.
Or 5th, excuse me.
Okay, so famously, I am known for thinking the Flyers could finish in any one of the 8 spots in the Metro.
You also said that about the Capitals, though.
I said that about the Capitals as well, yes. Honestly, I could see any of these 8 teams
finishing in any 8 spots.
Finishing in any of these 8 spots.
Really covering your bases.
People are at the end, they're like, hey, so Devils won the Metro, and that was very believable.
I told you.
I thought they could have done
it. Was always in the cards.
The Devils missed the playoffs. All
right, 5-6 Caps Penguins. Do you feel in your bones that the Flyers could finish last in the division?
I think yes. I think they could finish last in the division, and I will allow us to have them last in the division. Just as also throwing out a little nice thing for our Blue Jackets fam.
But I don't want it to be like a pity thing. I don't want us to be like, yeah, the Blue Jackets are finishing 7th in the division as like a gift to the Blue Jackets. I want it to be derogatory to the Flyers. I want to say the Flyers suck.
I like a hopeful, but also then if we say, hey, we have the Blue Jackets finishing 7th, if they finish 8th, I don't want us to, because like, again, with the Blue Jackets, there's only exceeding expectations for them this year. There's no failing. That's a shitty thing to say, but like they're just in such an impossible situation that nothing they do, I think, should be met with like, boy, what a shitty season they had. Like, yeah, like they're having a shitty fucking life right now. So I don't want to give them 7th and then make it look like they like fucked up this season.
I don't think anybody's going to think that. So
all right, so I'll let you make the call on who you put last.
I'm going to put the Flyers last. I love the Blue Jackets at 7, and I like the Flyers being the worst team in the league.
Just don't.
Not in the league, in the division. In the division.
All right, Pete.
I would love the Flyers to be the worst team in the league. That'd be funny. That would be a real implosion for Torts. The Torts content that you could have with them being the worst team in the league would be awesome.
Sean and I are in a club called Mitch's Bitches, and you don't want the Mitch's Bitches on your case. That's like Swifties for Matvey Michkov.
So I don't want to make it seem like I'm not a Michkov guy. I am a Michkov guy. I just don't think the Flyers got it.
Okay. That is your Metropolitan preview. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube and really subscribe to What Chaos everywhere. You can get the Atlantic Division preview. We also have the Central and the Pacific coming up. And as always, during the season, daily episodes. So get us anywhere you can. We love you. Talk to you soon. Bye.
We all silly like the mayor.